Mother Nature has been busy here on Delmarva. Wind, rain, even tornadoes.
The tornado in Camden on Monday may have been connected with what's left of Isaac.
Today, ways to keep you and your biggest investment protected.
The house needs new windows, new doors, new siding, but in this area the damage was not structural. Unlike over here, we have a problem.
From being proactive outside.
Normally when you get that push, you're either going to have the tree give or the wind give, and a lot of times it's going to be the tree that gives.
Your roof is up there in the brunt of the storm. It's taking the full force, so you want to make sure that you're paying attention to it.
You're taking care of what's inside.
There's no homeowner's policy that's going to cover flood damage. It is important to know that there are several things like a finished basement, which a lot of people out there do have on Delmarva, that will not be covered by flood insurance.
When weather happens,
whenever there's a lightning storm, the wind blows, we have a lot of rain or snow, it stresses the power system.
we want you to be prepared.
With an automatic standby generator, it does everything for you from the second the power goes out.
Delmarva Life's Storm Safety Show starts right now.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Bryant.
And I'm Brian Spiros. Welcome to Delmarva Life from Historic Studio D.
And as always, we'd like to welcome our studio audience today.
So everyone's probably noticing we're starting some things off a little differently here today, and that's because we have a special storm show.
Yeah, and whether it's been the rain, wind, or even tornadoes, we've seen different types of severe weather over the last couple of weeks right here on Delmarva. Some of it has been of historic proportion.
So why is this happening? WBOC's Chief Meteorologist Dan Satterfield is here with some answers. So Dan, the big question, why is it happening?
Well, it's a combination of things. One, we've had a very unusual weather pattern this year, but the muggy air and all the heavy rains may very well be related to the heat wave back in July. July was the hottest month ever recorded on Delmarva. And the records here go back to about the 1880s. So, I mean, it was a really hot month. And I think the main thing to think about here is, where did all that heat energy go? Did it go into the land? Yes, it got really hot. The air heated up as well. But most of that energy went into the oceans. The oceans absorb most of the heat the sun sends out. And now it's September, late August into September. What are those oceans doing? They're beginning to cool off. So all that heat energy is coming back up. And that's the release of a lot of warm, muggy air. So all we needed was a weather pattern that was just right to give us some rain and thunder. And those thunderstorms had all that warm, muggy air to deal with. And what do? They dumped the rain all over Delmarva. And that's how we ended up with 13 inches of rain in the Berlin area in one night. And those oceans right now are still the warmest they've ever been recorded. And we could see some more of this week.
A little over 2 months ago, we had a rare weather event called derecho. Many of us have probably never even heard of it before. I know I haven't. What exactly is a derecho?
Let me tell you a little story here. At 5 o'clock that day, that derecho started around Chicago. And I was thinking, boy, we've got a derecho developing. Should I even use this term on television? Probably before June 29th, you folks at home had never heard that word, right? Had you all ever heard it?
I never heard
Meteorologists know about derechos. I finally decided, I'm going to say the word on TV, and I'm going to explain what it is, because by 5 o'clock I was thinking, there's a chance, it's a small chance this thing could make it all the way to Delmarva. By 7 o'clock, I was really worried. And by 10 o'clock, I knew it was on its way. So I was kind of glad I used the term derecho. And I went home at dinner and I told my wife, I said, no one knows what the term derecho is now, but by tomorrow morning, everyone will know what a derecho is. So what is a derecho? It's what we call a convective windstorm.
And we actually have it
right now on the
screen.
Yes, and what you're looking at is a radar image, but it's a bunch of radar images all laid on top of one another. So you can see the outline of that thing as it tracked from near Chicago all the way to Delmarva. It started around midday in Chicago. They had winds of 60, 70 miles an hour. Then it really got going. And it hit Indiana with 80 to 90 mile per hour winds.
Wow.
And then it sped up and it moved at about 60 to 70 miles an hour nonstop. It hit DC about 10 or 11 o'clock. And then it hit Delmarva at midnight. And in my household, we call that Dan's birthday Delmarva, birthday derecho, because it hit after midnight, so it was my birthday.
Yeah.
And it was, yes, it was. Well, for a weather geek, it was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, you introduced us to the word.
All of my friends who lost power for 5 days really don't see it that
No,
way, and I can understand that. But these things tend to develop on the north side of heat waves in July and August. And if it's a really big heat wave, then watch out. And I've read several papers on this. I hadn't seen one in a while, but all of a sudden, here it was, a big heat wave going on. It was 110 in Illinois that day. So when it developed, I knew, uh-oh, watch out.
All right, back on Delmarva, though,
Yes.
it seems to me, I've been living here for 20 years. I don't think I ever remember a season we've had so many tornadoes or water spouts. What's up with that?
You know, a lot of it is the high heat. And the other is it's just the luck of the draw this year. I mean, we have had several water spouts that were big. But yeah, like yesterday, that tornado up in Camden, it was actually on Monday, that was a tornado. It was not a water spout. It was an EF0, maybe an EF1. The wind's only 85, maybe 90 miles per hour. An EF1 tornado might have a length on it on the path of, a half a mile. This one was a little under that. But yes, and then of course the big one down in the Melfa only area. And here's the thing, we're not sure if that was a water spout or a tornado.
Really?
We don't know. Right now, I'm leaning toward that being a tornado, believe it or not.
Leaving lots of damage. We've seen
Yes,
a lot of the damage.
Yes. It's just been that kind of a crazy year. We've had a lot of upper level lows that were spinning, and that sometimes gives enough energy into these thunderstorms that might not otherwise produce a tornado to do that. So that may have been a factor. Also, the tornado in Camden on Monday may have been connected with what's left of Isaac.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, you couldn't really track it anymore, but it was a very typical hurricane-type tornado, and there's still some energy in the atmosphere, and all this muggy air that we've been dealing with the last few days, this all came up from the Gulf of Mexico and the tropics with Isaac.
Now, speaking of Isaac, hurricanes. Hurricane season is typically from May to November, but it seems like we really don't start gearing up for them or seeing them until September. Why is that?
There's an old weather saying that you'll almost always have a hurricane on the Atlantic weather chart on Labor Day morning because they really don't get going until late July into August. Once they do, then you have about 5 weeks of very active weather. And look at this, I brought this chart for you. This shows the peak of hurricane season, and guess what? It's 5 days from now. September 10th is the most likely day to see a hurricane, and it's a fairly sharp peak. You notice that right when we get past September 10th, the odds really start to go back down. There's also a peak at the end of October, and that's real. If you look closely, you can see that they're right around Halloween. We start to get cold fronts down, and we tend to get very fast-moving, weak tropical storms developing in the Atlantic at the end of October. But the big peak is this week.
So we're right at that point.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, you have a rain gauge that people can use to help the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Explain how that works.
All right. Well, first of all, rain data is very important, not only for people like me who want to know, hey, how much rain fell in the area today, but also for coming up with climate models and also with flood models for hurricanes. We need to know, all right, what does 6 inches of rain do to the water in a local area? So one, it's important data. A lot of people go out and they get these little bitty gauges, say at different convenience stores and stuff. Those aren't very good. But you can order a rain gauge and you can actually report your data every day online. You do it on the internet, and that data is archived and it's made available for anyone who needs that data. And it's very, very helpful. And the rain gauges cost you, I think, about 29 bucks. If you go to cocoroz.org, and you can see that on your screen, you can sign up, no charge, of course. They want you to do this. It's free. You just have to pay for the rain gauge. You report your rain data every day, anytime you want to do it. And it is very helpful. And I can call that data up for any rain gauge in the United States. And we have several here in Delmarva already doing that. And they're about 5 inches across. And I'll tell you something, those rain gauges are more accurate than the $50,000 to $100,000 gauges that are electronic they have at the airports around the United States. They're manual, you have to go out and read them, but they really are accurate.
How important is that? Because we have weather watchers all over Delmarva, and you use that info.
Well, you know, when I get a weather watcher call, we had one the other day when we had the big flooding in Berlin. I started getting weather watchers calling, telling me we had 6.75 inches of rain. I knew, whoa, this is a serious situation. Also, if you have another event right after the big flood event, you need to know how much rain fell, because if you have a saturated soil in an area, the flash flooding will start much sooner the second time around. So knowing how soaked the soil is very helpful. We call that flash flood guidance. Right now, it would take about 3 inches today of rain in a 6-hour period to get flash flooding. About 2 inches within an hour would start severe flash flooding. That's the guidance value today.
And of course, here on Delmarva, you could have rain in one part and then like half a mile away,
Yeah,
no rain.
Summer convective storms, they can really dump 5-6 inches of rain, and then 5 miles down the road you get nothing. That's why you just can't get by with a rain gauge at this airport and that airport. That's why COCORAS started, basically to get a lot better rain data coverage around the United States. And COCORAS stands for Community Collaborative Rain Hail Study. So.
Wow.
All right, good information,
Certainly.
Dan.
And
Thank
stuff
you
people
so
should
much.
be paying attention
Sure.
to.
We
All
could
right,
talk
thank
about
you,
this all
Dan.
day,
We
couldn't
could.
we?
Oh, yeah. Very interesting. It's an interesting topic.
I'm a weather geek at heart.
All right,
good.
thanks, Dan.
All
right.
So now that we know a little bit more about how storms work, today we help you get ready for the next storm.
First up, some of the worst damage to your home or property can come from falling trees, but this can be prevented. Up next, some easy steps you can take to make sure your trees stay upright when Mother Nature wants to bring them down.
We also need to make sure the roof is ready for severe weather, from cleaning the gutters to looking for missing shingles. The complete to-do list before the storm hits.
Plus, if your home floods, how would you deal with it? Why you shouldn't count on your homeowner's insurance policy.
And a simple solution if the power goes out, a portable generator. What you need to know before you fire this baby up. All that and so much more.
The Delmarva Life Storm Safety Show rolls on next.
Delmarva Life is brought to you by Sussex County Federal Credit Union, guiding you to your financial future. Peninsula Regional Medical Center, honored to serve the entire Delmarva Peninsula since 1897. And your local York and Mitsubishi dealers.